So these are the people that are on. Yes. Okay. Let me see if I can't get my codex here.
Is this supposed to be streamed on YouTube?
I'm sorry, say it again, Anajel.
I think that was Adele.
It's Adele. Is this supposed to be streamed on YouTube as on the agenda?
Yes, that's my understanding, Adele.
Thank you. Oh, I'm not seeing it.
Let me just verify that for you if it's any different, just a moment.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Morning, Jeff. Good, David, how are you? Good.
It's being streamed on our YouTube channel.
Hi, I'm Joe.
Sorry, I didn't hear the question, but that's what Ron just told me to say. It's being streamed on
YouTube channel. Building a fireplace from North Boylston. I'm retiring on this job. It's a big old one, this is it, I'm not building nothing else. How far along are you? Yeah, this feels massive. I'm close enough. 160. Oh man, I've been there. Well, I mean, 1 or 2 days, but I've been there a lot. Really? That's for the certification. I had my legal counsel next to me. Wow.
In this video, we went through different sections of the phone.
Now it's just a fireplace. Wow. All the way outside of it. All right, thank you everybody for attending this afternoon's meeting. We're going to rise and pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I will note that all board members are in attendance. Mr. Cross, Mr. Wonolowski, myself here at the board, and Ms. Chappelle attended via teleconference. So we'll note that in the minutes. And I will make a motion to approve the minutes from our August 17th, 2024 meeting. That was from last week. Second. Thank you. There were some edits that Linda caught and made in addition to my edits. Nothing significant. It didn't change the substance of anything. Does anybody have any other questions or comments concerning the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Mr. Frost, you submitted something for signature. Okay. And with your permission, Joe, that maybe Tehran can sign for your signature for the minutes. Is that sufficient?
Yeah, I thought I had digital, is there a digital stamp that, or a stamp, other stamp that can be used, but that's fine.
No, we can use a digital.
I don't know how we can do it.
Thank you. Mr. Cleary, is he present or on the phone?
I am on the phone, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Mr. Cleary, we're going to, why don't you tee it up for the certification of the official results for the August 4th, 2020 special election?
Sure. Brian Clary, manager of ballot department. Before you should have a copy of the certification data and the official results from the August 4th special election. There were a total of 1,078 ballots tabulated for the August special election, and they break down as follows. There were 102 ballots cast on election day. 868 were cast vote by mail. 11 were cast early in person, 3 were cast provisionally, and 14 were cast post vote by mail. And then there's a chart breaking down the percentages for each of those. Moving on to the vote by mail early in person summary, there were a total of 1,087 ballots issued for this election. Of those, 893 were returned and counted, 2 were challenged, 17 were returned late, and 194 were never returned. That's an overall return rate of 83.9% and a challenge rate of 2.08%. If you remove the lates from that, the challenge rate drops down to 0.22%. The 2 challenges were for no ballot returned with the ID envelope. Those are the only 2 challenges we have for the vote by mail early in person. Are there any questions on this section?
I don't have.
Hearing none, moving on to the.
Go ahead, Brian.
Okay, moving on to the provisional voting summary. There were a total of 3 provisional ballots cast during the August special election. None were cast early in person, and all 3 were cast on election day. All 3 of those ballots were valid and tabulated by the ballot department. So for 100% return ballot rate and a 0% rejection rate. Any questions on the provisional voting section? Hearing none, there were no ballot remakes for this election, nor were there any overvotes in the election. For voter history, there were 16 precincts involved in the election, and voter history is complete and will be applied upon completion of the certification meeting. Currently, there are no automatic recounts, and the request to recount deadline is Monday, August 31st at 4 p.m. We currently have the post-election audit scheduled for beginning Wednesday, September 2nd at 9 a.m. unless there's a request to recount that could possibly change. But for right now, we're scheduled for Wednesday, September 2nd at 9 a.m. And the rest of the sheet is historical data. If you have any questions, I'll take them now.
I do have a question, and I guess just interested in hearing from anybody. The absentee rate is 80%, and that's remarkable. And I know we anticipate a higher. Do you think, Brian, I'd first start with you, and then I guess Chantel and Tony, your comments. Do you think that portends for such a high turnout this November?
I do. I think we're going to get a higher percentage than we normally get for the vote by mail section. I don't know if we'll get to 80%, but I think we'll see a much higher turnout vote by mail in the general election than we normally would.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're definitely going to see an increase in vote by mail for this fall. We would typically see about 40% usage of it. I think we would easily break 50% and probably hit closer to the 60%. One of the things is, and this is just, it's crazy, it's off the charts. At this point in time, we're not even at September 1st yet. When you take the number of ballot applications that we've processed and those that are on the shelf waiting to process, it's already over 100,000. We have over 100,000 vote by mail applications in our possession. About 60,000 have been data entered. And the other ones are waiting to be entered. We have 22 temporary staff. We've already ordered another 11 because it's just crazy.
What would we normally?
At this point in time, hardly, we really wouldn't even be starting to enter anything except for you'd have a few thousand. That's it. So, and this
we have a few thousand on the shelf waiting to be entered, but nothing like that.
And this is even before the Secretary of State obviously sent out this application.
And for the chair, Mr. Please, what is your projected turnout overall?
So we would anticipate about 70%, so somewhere 70-75%, and that's 900,000 registered voters is what we'll base that off. So we're looking in the vicinity of 650,000 people overall to vote. So of that, we'll just say 650. We're going to get at least half of them voting by mail.
That's 75%. You said.
About 70, yeah. So 70% is what you typically would get. An increase, which we could have an increase, would probably take us up to about 75%. I don't think, maybe a little higher than that, but I think even at that, that's a really good turnout. 75%, that'd be a record.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I will move to authorize to approve the absentee ballots for the August 4th, 2020 special elections reported by Mr. Cleary. If there's a second. Second. Any comment or question? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously. I will then also move to authorize to approve the provisional ballots from the August 4th, 2020 special election for Board Members. Clearly, if there's a second. There's any other question or comment? Hearing none, all those signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Great, passes unanimously. I will move on to acknowledge the date, time, and place of the post-election audit. It's 9 a.m. on August 4th, for the August 9th, for the August 4th, 2020 special election. That being, is that September 1st?
That is Wednesday, September 2nd, 9 a.m.
Okay, thank you. Any question or comment? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And
Aye.
we're gonna, you may need a moment, or maybe you've had a chance tonight, Joe. I can move to acknowledge the pre and post test results of the vote tabulation system from the August 4th, 2020 special election, if there's a second.
Second.
Okay, any question or comment from there? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Anna Jo. And then I will move to certify the official results of the August 4th, 2020 special election. If there's a second. Thank you, Mr. Wondolowski. Any question or comment? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. And on to the acknowledgments and removal of that page. I will acknowledge the removal of Jack Pesci from the Brexville City Council as a member council, as well as the appointment of Daryl Kingston to the Brexville City Council to replace Mr. Pesci. If there's a second. Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. It passes unanimously. And on to the approval of I'll move to approve to send the voter information guide to the November 3rd, 2020 presidential election. Second. Second. Thank you, Mr. Wondolowski. Mr. Pilati or Ms. Chantilly, do you want to comment on that? I know it's a little different than we usually do.
So we do send out this informational piece every election. There is a little bit difference on this one. We have a vote from home logo on here that we typically don't. We want to remind people at this point in time to still vote from home. On this document, we will put their polling location, and if it is a new polling location for them, we will indicate that for them. And so typically, or what we've done in the past is on this, also in this document, in the upper left-hand corner, we would talk a little bit about items that would be on the ballot. Well, most individuals know that this is a presidential election. We took this opportunity in that section of the document to again talk about voting by mail, vote from home, in person. What we want individuals to wear masks, and get into a little bit about the PPE and expectations versus just saying you're voting for Congress, and presidents, and all that. We want to put a little bit more useful information to them there.
So is this going to be the same size in the past, or it's going to be a little bigger?
No, this will be the same size document. It'll be bilingual, English on one, Spanish on the other, folded in half. These little exterior tabs to close them up.
I don't remember it being fully in half before. I thought it was English on one side and Spanish on the other.
It will be Spanish on the back side, but when we mail it, pieces folded in half, so it goes off. That's for post office. That's kind of how they mail it, postcard size to people's houses.
And you're still getting bids on this, or did you get the bids?
So it actually closed yesterday. Up here comes Kendra with the.
Hi, Mr. Shanks.
Hello, I'm Kendra Commander. Bid just came in. We just awarded it to Midwest Direct at $42,963.20, which is $657 more than the estimated.
Okay.
And it compares to last November. Last November was $43,455. So like we rolled it away.
Sure. And these will go out. When do these go in the mail? A week before we go in?
Yeah, so September 25th is about when we're going to set these out. Because a lot of times this is a piece that triggers people to request their vote by mail. but because of Secretary of State sending out a statewide one, this piece, while again, we'll talk about that, was more so probably for those individuals wanting to know early in-person voting hours and their election being poll place. So.
All right, then, thank you, Mr. So we do have a motion on the floor. Are there any other questions about this for board members? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion.
Aye.
Thank you, Joe. Motion passes unanimously. We have a personnel agenda item, if you want to tee that up.
Yeah, so we have, for you, we're recommending a new hire in the registration department. It's Julie Brown. This is backfilling a vacancy that was created when former employee Nancy Stu had retired. Julie has been a temporary employee with us since 2016. And she spent a lot of time in the early in-person voting process and registration. Excellent worker, good work ethic, great personality, and just someone we can rely on, so should be a good addition to the team.
Thank you. Any other, well, I will move to approve that recommended appointment by staff. There's a second. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. And we're on to new business now, and the supervisor manager Porter. The party is here, Mr. Curtis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Good afternoon. Give you a update on where we are as we head into the November 2020 election. First, we'll start with recruitment. We have entered into a partnership with the United Way here in Cleveland. And they've approved their employees to take the day off to work the polls. United Way is also sending out our information electronically to their volunteer pool and related organizations, encouraging those persons to help us to work at the polls. That's a good thing with United Way. We're also participating in the Ohio Means Jobs virtual job fair that will be held this Thursday in Kylie from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. We will have a virtual booth, and we will have DOE staff available to chat with persons within our booth and explain our job opportunities with them and to hopefully bring them aboard. Also, we're pleased to share that we have a partnership with Vocational Guidance Services. They've received our information relative specifically to the sanitation official position, and they will help us in recruiting persons to fill that role. So those are some of the high-level things that we're dealing with in our department relative to recruitment. Now, in the placement area, we are filling in many of our positions. We've had persons who are in our population pool who applied before March. Since March, they come to the Secretary of State's website, through our website, as well as through telephone and paper. And right now, we have about 4,994 people who have actually submitted applications to work as of this morning. We have 161 attorneys, 143 county workers, 199 sanitation officials, 576 returning Republicans, with approximately 700 new Republican applicants. Bilingual recruitment through our Secretary of State portal. We have 213 individuals who have indicated their willingness to work, and we've also gone back to 2016 and identified another 250 individuals, as well as 45 persons from our March 2020 primary. So in sum, right now, as of this morning, we have 5,323 people who have reached out to us, as well as 2,377 persons who are returning. So in our population pool of available people, by our calculation, we have exactly 7,700 people that we can hopefully glean from. Now, those folks would have to be trained. So that takes me to our third point of training. Classes will begin on September 4th. And we secured 13 training sites for in-person classes. Returning workers may train online if they have a valid email address and reliable internet connection. Returning workers will have to train in person if they do not have an email address or you're unable to access the content digitally. That would be about 329 such persons. Training training will be conducted this Friday in 2 sessions, 8 to 11:30 a.m. and from 12:30 to 4 p.m. We currently have 13 trainers and 10 training assistants. Our plan is to reach out to our PEOs later this week with an email and informs them the training classes online and in person will be available for them to sign up for beginning next week. Also, our continuing legal education and continuing education programs for certain professions, attorneys, and CPAs have the ability to self-identify and complete their application to work for us. They will obtain credit for the election official class as well as successfully working at the polls on election day. Our vendor 10X has a field in the application that allows persons to enter their attorney or CPA control number, verifying that they are really eligible to receive continuing legal education or continuing education units. We've reached out to the county prosecutor's office to obtain attorneys, and we're also working with the public defender's office. There are 2 separate systems with 2 different procedures that we're trying to navigate through as we bring those folks in the fall. Also, you will be aware that there's a program for social workers to obtain continuing education units for working the polls. We have researched this extensively. There's a lot more involved to it than we originally thought. In some, it would require us to construct a specialized curriculum in order to meet their specific continuing education requirements. Consulted with Director Pilati. Director Pilati reached out to state officials to learn that 10 of Ohio's 80 counties have applied to offer a continuing education for social workers to serve as precinct election officials. And Mr. Pilati, would you like to extra here?
So the social work program, the more we dive into it, doesn't seem to be maybe as fruitful of a program as the other ones are. Kind of goes back to when we had the CLE program in the spring. We had to create new curriculum, we had to identify specific training, trainers at times. But we can't use that same curriculum. We'd have to create some new social work curriculum. So where for the fall, the CLE and the CPA one is you go to any class, you get your credit, it's obviously much easier to do. So I did reach out to Aaron Ackerman, OEO, to see what's going on around the state with this, or that people said it's been, troublesome or cumbersome, and he looked around, and that's where he said only 10 counties have submitted applications. I don't know if any of them have been approved at this point. So he was going to work or inform the nonprofit All Voting is Local, who's been behind the credit for the social workers, to reach out to the Secretary of State and have those parties talk and see, is there any way that this can be similar to the current CLE CPA program, where you just go to any class, you get credit, we're not creating a new training. It's kind of difficult at this point as we're trying to develop an online returning training, which is new, and then go ahead and create an addition. So you have your in-person training, your online training, and you're trying to create social worker training. Time isn't necessarily on our side to do that. So that's something that we're really not interested in pursuing aggressively at this point in time. It's a difficult program to get out. Now, if we can help to encourage someone to relax some of those rules, kind of like how there have been changes with CLE credit, we definitely welcome that and try to make it work. So I don't think we're going to be developing the program for the social workers this fall.
Thank you. Anything else, Henry? No, thank you. Oh, thank you. I know they're going to be, anybody have a question for Henry?
I just have a comment. I'm just so thrilled to hear that. I was, wondering what the numbers were going to sound like, and kudos to all the efforts that recruitment efforts that have been going on, and it sounds like we are well on our way. I was very, very concerned that we wouldn't have such robust numbers, but this is great news. So thank you for the report and for investigating all the potential sources of workers. So I think I heard you say vocational guidance services is BGS is going to be providing some of the sanitation. It's just really, really great news, and I appreciate the report.
Thank you.
Thanks. You all have a one thing for that update. Pick on the social worker. And, I don't know what the content that those who regulate social workers demand in those courses, but it's possible that the curriculum we designed for attorneys might pass muster for social workers. And there was nothing inherently just about the law in there, but it was more designed for, if you already explore, or is there a thought to say, well, here's a design curriculum that we had, would you accept this for social work? The one we already have that we did last year.
I don't know if we actually submitted that attorney.
We did that.
We can.
It's worth a shot. I mean, the curriculum exists.
Yeah.
We don't need it for lawyers now.
Mm-hmm.
If they would say, okay, that meets enough criteria, I don't know, maybe social workers need some of their training can be on aspects of the law. There you go. So I don't give it a high percentage chance, but maybe it's worth asking if that would pass muster.
We can definitely submit. So, I mean, like I said, that's in the can, so we can go ahead, submit, and see what happens with it.
Having worked intensively with the team that put in a lot more hours, I understand why it's just not feasible to develop a new curriculum and then market that and get people in to make it effective. But if something we have on the shelf could work, then maybe it's still out.
I have a question. Henry, thank you. I echo Ida Joe's and Rob's comments. It's a very encouraging report. In addition to, polling locations and poll worker recruitment are the two biggest components of this election. It sounds like you're in a good spot. How many are you going to need generally, Henry, to do an election?
We're going to need about 44, 45.
And you're at 77.
And that's our population. Right now, we can reasonably say we can pull from it.
Right. And so just on your experience, what percentage do you think you'll pull from them? Is that a nice pool to be at right now?
Yes. And we're in late August.
Yes.
Okay. And maybe even more by the time we go through the cycle. People know shelter. Who knows what could come up in the next couple of months? But you need to start your numbers high so that you can eventually settle down to where you need to be.
And if you know, no biggie, you can just get an email out. Just how many of these do we pull from the Secretary of State's site, if you know?
Right now, I have 2,039 Secretary of State.
Significant number. Yeah, great. And what about youth? Is there an effort to, get the 17-year-olds and the 18-year-olds in?
That's been a really nice in this current situation because a lot of schools are not in session. So they are still trying to figure out what their fall and the first semester quarter quarters is going to look like. We do have a plan to try to reach certain high schools, but that's not going to start until really after Labor Day. A lot of schools are in that.
Right.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing Henry a little bit. What was it about the 17? It's harder to get the 17, 18 year olds. Oh, there we go.
The schools are not, we're just about to start, and several of them are not meeting in person, but are going to virtual instruction. So therefore, we've had a little bit of difficulty in getting a lot of our schools nailed down. So I don't anticipate, quite honestly, very robust, as in the past, high school poll worker program, but we are going to try to work with the schools that we have and the individuals that we can reach out to see if in fact we can harvest some of those individuals in the recruitment.
I want to add, I do have a phone call this Friday, gentleman Michael Hauser with the Cleveland Metropolitan School District. And I need to talk to him about a few things. And one of the things I want to talk to him about is student poll worker program in the city of Cleveland schools. How it's worked in the past is you had to reach out to each individual school and find that principal or teacher who was interested. through Michael, I want to see if we can somehow have more of a top-down approach, talking to the Fair Board and see if through this virtual way, can we somehow push something out, the school district, pull something out globally to all the schools, the high schools, and see if we can do something there. The training of them could probably be easy because they're doing class virtually, so we can train them virtually, but it's just trying to get that interest and that excitement for them to do that, which when we go into the schools, we sell it, right? And so you kind of, it doesn't mean that we can't send out some kind of pre-recorded thing and try to do it jazz up, but it's just a little bit different, but we're gonna try to do that at least with the Cleveland schools to see if we can more centralize and push the message out top down. And then also, like Henry and his staff, we kind of waiting a little bit on some of the other schools because as school really is just starting this week and next week for some of these high schools, these schools are focusing on how they can get the people to get the school open and running. Give them a week or two, get it under their belt, then start to reach out to some of those school districts. So they're like, okay, we have this taken care of, now we can start thinking about some of the other stuff. So some of this time too.
It's always so encouraging to see, a young face when you walk in, and they're very courteous and thoughtful and knowledgeable. So thank you for your efforts. Are there any other questions for Mr. Curtis? All right, here, thank you very much, Henry, for your report. On to an update on the 850 purchases, the BS 850 purchases.
This will hopefully be short and sweet. So this is something that last week, obviously, you authorized the purchase. Thank you. And based on the comments we heard from the board members, Mark did engage in communication with legal at ES&S on trying to get some movement on some of the items such as liability and those types of things. And I think there was some movement, not necessarily everything we would want, but I think through those discussions, we feel comfortable that we did make some progress and that we can now go forward with the county administration building and going ahead and getting the county executive and the council president to sign off on the purchase.
So that's moving ahead.
Yes.
All right. Any other questions for the director or deputy director on the purchases? Hearing none, let's move on to the transition to .gov domain.
Okay, so I just wanted to touch base on this. This is per a directive we received this Friday. We're supposed to be transitioned to a .gov website domain. This is something where really the county IT department, Jeremy Meal, who are a member for some of our security items, and Andy Moles, who's an interim administrator there, have been leading up on this. We submitted a plan to the Secretary of State to meet that deadline. We actually have a call this afternoon, I think at 3:15 with Andy Moles, to get another update since Friday is very close to us. The county is further along on the transition to a .gov email for all employees, and they are getting closer to the .gov website domain. So they are confident, being county IT department, that we will meet Friday's deadline. And so we will again have a conversation with them this afternoon just to see what there is, that anything more that we can do to help facilitate testing or whatever it is to meet that deadline.
Terrific. Any questions? Hearing none, on to the polling location update.
Okay. And the last meeting, I indicated there was 12 locations that were kind of the priority locations that we needed to work through. And happy to know that as of today, we've worked through those 12 locations. A lot of them was taking a precinct or two out of locations, finding another one, an existing location that was close, getting into that. What's been great is the schools, as far as the gymnasiums, really making those available to us. And so that's what has been really helpful in us working through this. So August 31st, I indicated at the end of August is when we would be able to lock in positions. I really think we will be able to do that, especially with the progress that they've made this last week. One of the things that they're doing now is last week I talked about the primary focus was looking at the voting booths, trying to get as many as possible. And with kind of seeing the landscape where we are comfortable with that. And now we're kind of focusing on the EVP check-ins and seeing anywhere where we have a reduction, there's a way replacing 8-foot tables with 6-foot tables to incorporate an additional 1 or 2 of those locations. That's not necessary to lock in the position, but that's what Victor and his team are working on now, is looking at those check-ins to get us there. So, I think we have good confidence that we'll have both places. Once we have that, so within the next week, should be able to come with some tentative numbers like what are we looking at as far as voters who are impacted. Because of course, we all want to know that they're going to need to notify these individuals of their changes. Well, let's start to talk about that through the media, things like that.
Any questions for the director? All right, and an update on the senior assisted living facilities.
I can take that one, actually.
All right, thank you, Ms. Hood.
Yesterday afternoon, we had a Zoom meeting with the nursing home administrators from different locations across the county. We actually have about 100 facilities in the county, and by the end of the Zoom meeting, we had over 50 participants. It was a really good turnout. The goal of the Zoom was kind of to start the conversation as far as what voting at these locations would look like in the fall. Typically, we would hire about 25 people to work at 5 teams to go out to these facilities and deliver ballots, and in some cases assist voters in actually casting their ballot. We have reached out to the county health department and the city health department, and just basically looking for guidance on what we should be doing as far as entering those locations, if it was feasible or if it was better to go with the option of actually using nursing home staff and deputizing them, which is an option that is offered in Directive 2020-11. So we basically laid out 2 different options for the nursing home administrators yesterday. One is the typical vote by mail, where the residents could fill out the application and use the postal service to send in their ballot and request their ballot and send in their ballot. We also offered the option kind of as a subcategory of that, if they were to gather all of the applications at the facility, that we have staff members go to the location and bring ballots for the residents and then come back at a later date to pick those ballots up, so they wouldn't have to actually go to the postal service. And then the second option was offering to do the training sessions for their staff to actually deputize them to assist voters that need it in casting and marking the ballot. So there were quite a few questions at the end of the session, and I think the next steps survey went out yesterday afternoon to not just the facilities that participated, but also all the contacts that we have across the county, basically gauging their interest in either of the 2 options. And after, I believe that survey is due on Friday afternoon. So once we start to see the responses for those, we will start to formalize our plan for fall.
And maybe you mentioned too, how many do we have approximately in the
We
county?
have just under 100, I believe.
Yeah. You had how many participated?
It was just under 50, is that correct, Robin? I think it's called, it was like 49.
Well, we have contacts for all these organizations.
Yes, we do.
And this is something that we didn't anticipate or needed to in March with COVID. I mean, now we're anticipating we're going to have to deal with these organizations because they have a senior population.
Yes, so at the end of the election cycle in March, and April, I guess, we kind of just had to wing it at the end to figure out, staff going in, would they allow staff in to actually cast the ballots, our assistant voters. So we wanted to start the conversation really early this time, so make sure that everyone's on the same page and that we have these questions that they have.
Right, that's good news. Keep us updated on that. That's an important component. Right, website accessibility.
I have a question.
Please.
Yeah, I'm real curious to find out what the survey results will be, because I do have a couple of family members in nursing homes, and we aren't even able to visit in any significant way. We just started doing sort of outdoor visits, and I would be shocked to find out if there would be an option other than deputizing their current staff. So the contact is very limited with family members, even though it's getting better. And I guess my question to you, Chantel, is what does it take? Does it require a lot of manpower on our side to actually deputize folks? What's involved if we have to actually deputize the existing workers in those facilities.
We would actually hold a few different, very brief sessions, probably 10 to 15 minutes to explain to them the important pieces of the ID envelope and the ballot itself. And we can do that over the telephone or Zoom conference. And then they have to sign the same vote that election officials sign. So it's not very involved at all.
Okay. Thank you.
Update on website accessibility.
So I just want to bring to your attention, one of the items, I believe this was in the directive that dealt with the HAVA dollars. We had to do website accessibility testing on our website, and we did not pass, but we do that. We're developing a new website. We're still working with the county on that. However, we won't implement before the election. It's too close. So we, of course, in December, probably want to see the website right after the election. But there are some key things that by September 15th, we need to have our current website up and running and doing it. One of those things is a voter lookup, our contact information, which our county IT department is working on, and they do have the ability to change and program the website to meet that accessibility. And then there's a third piece, and that third piece is the sample ballots. And currently our sample ballots are on the website are PDFs. PDFs are not good for accessibility on a website. And so we are looking and working with vendors to get information to actually purchase a product that we can have a sample ballots that are ADA accessible and compliant with what is required by the Secretary of State. One of the things that we have looked at is we currently purchase software to do remote ballot marking for the ADA community. And that vendor there too is already taking our ballots, and they have to convert them in order for them to work for that. And so, of course, there's a charge, but they can also provide sample ballots, not only the sample ballots for anyone on the website, so both those who need accessibility and those who don't. So we're vetting through that program with our county IT department to see is this something that we can go ahead and use on our website, because our county IT will not be able to make the 975 PDF ballots into accessibility. So it will most likely be purchased. It'll probably be something in the vicinity of probably $10,000 for that. It would be 1 year's worth of software to get that together. We don't have it now, but between Chantel, myself, Robin, Fiscal, the county IT, we're working to have that so we can be compliant. September 15th is that date, and I'm confident that we can make that.
So this is ADA accessibility.
ADA accessibility,
That
yes,
we need to address.
correct. Right. Three main things are for the ADA community: our contact information, the voter lookup, look themselves up, and DOC sample ballot.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. Dwayne, do we have, of the I think $40,000 grant for the cybersecurity part, and then this part, was it only $15,000 we got for this particular website accessibility piece, or did I read that incorrectly?
No, you read that correctly. 25,000 for physical and cybersecurity, and 15,000 for accessibility. So, portion of the
Do we have
dollars.
enough money?
Well, we'll have enough money to purchase this. So we will be able to get this, the sample ballots, that software, as well as we're getting some new signage on the front of the building and the rear of the building. We're working with the county, actually sign maker to trades to get that, so we get in compliance. So we will be able to have enough dollars for that. Luckily, we already meet a lot of the accessibility requirements as far as physical accessibility. So that part is pretty good. Cybersecurity, that gets eaten up pretty quick. We're creating some additional cameras that the Secretary of State's Physical Security Advisor advised us on. So we're getting some cameras installed. We're working with the county electricians to get the wiring pulled on that, as well as what was it? cameras. Some additional security film at Alley Warehouse, and I can't remember off the top of my head what else. Those are some of the things that those $40,000 in grant dollars.
Thank you.
Great. And finally, the emergency management plan.
Tony Gallagher. He's going to give us an update on that.
Welcome, Mr. Gallagher.
Good afternoon, Tony Gallagher, Election and Compliance Administrator. As you know, this past July, in preparation for the November 3rd presidential election, we submitted our election administration plan to the Secretary of State's office. One of the sections in the election administration plan deals with emergency contingency planning during early in-person voting and at the polling location on election day. These emergencies include events such as power outages, gas leak, fire, traffic issues, inclement weather, and so on. Directive 2020-12 requires us to request that the County Emergency Management Agency and Sheriff's Department review these emergency contingency plans. So we have taken this time to add additional details and procedures to these plans, as well as include portions of our employee emergency training manual that addresses emergency actions that take place during non-election cycle. We'll be submitting our emergency contingency plan this Friday to those two government agencies. We'll also forward a copy of the plan to the board members after we get a reply back from the county sheriff, the sheriff, and the emergency management agency. We'll resubmit the plan to you as well, so with any updates they might give us.
Thank you for that update. Are there questions, Mr. Gallagher? All right, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no other new business, then I will see if there's any public testimony. Anyone want to comment? You have a 5-minute comment window. Linda, you don't have anybody? There is one. Oh, there is one more item. I'm sorry. What's that?
I just wanted to update paid postage on return ballots. Last week, Secretary LaRose came out and said that he was going to pursue that through the Border Patrol. He did have, that meeting did happen yesterday, and from our understanding, Cleveland.com, that was, it was, I guess, placed on hold. It's going to be reviewed again on September 15th by the board. With that, getting awfully close to election day, we're going to have to go ahead and order the envelopes without a postage paid indicia or permitting information on the envelopes. So we have those. And then come September 15th, if they do have, they say the postage can be paid, then we'll have to work through printing postage labels from the printing voter machine or whatever it is, manually applying them. I'm waiting until the 15th to be able to go to print. We ordered 700,000 envelopes. It takes a little bit of time to print that and get them in time for the print vendor Midwest, because they will start printing ballots as soon as we get them to print. Customs too close. So if the postage is to be paid, we will comply. We just won't be able to. We'll have to go a different route.
Imagine we're not the only board in the state that's facing that deadline. And does the Secretary of State's office know that we have to do that?
I had indicated to him that we have to do that. I was told, well, there's other ways to put postage on it.
Okay.
So, okay. And yeah, I think there's a lot of counties, but we've been preparing. We've been going out to bid and trying to do that. So,
thank you for that update. Other questions? All right. Anything else, Director Kalani or Deputy Director Silver?
not good.
Board members? All right,
I'm sorry, I would just, if we could get just a final update, if you're gonna lock down the polling location issue by August 31st, if we could get just an update, either in writing, just to say, hey, these are our polling locations, it's locked in, just would be helpful to know. people are concerned about, whether there's gonna be some reduction or something before the election. I know you don't have a crystal ball, but if we know what our finite number is, if we could just get the update, the final count on that, that would be great.
Sure. Thank you. Anything else? All right, hearing no public comment, I will move to adjourn today's meeting. We'll be returning on September 9th. There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Hi,
Thank you all.
thank you.
I'm sorry, Jeff, did you say September 14th? That's the next meeting I have. September 14th at 9:30.
Our calendar has a meeting on September 9th. I don't. It's a 14th.
Yeah, there's one here for the 14th also. I'm not sure what this might be for.
Well, you'll let us know when the next meeting is. It's either the 9th or 14th.
Definitely will.
It's the 14th at 9:30.
It's the 14th at 9:30, but just to clarify. Thank you. Thank you. All right.